Welcome to the Positively No Gambling podcast, a pro football show that is definitely not about betting. My name is Glenn Fraser. It is Wednesday, August 27th, and this is the 2025 team preview for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We are getting that much closer to the season, and I cannot wait. Okay, so the preview format, two big questions we'll ask from the start of the offseason. We'll recap 2024, preview 2025, look at some advanced stats and trends, early leans against the spread, conclude on those two big questions, and then give out a prelim over-under pick for win totals. The final over-under picks for the Steelers and every team will be part of the AFC and NFC preview pods coming out right before the season starts in September. Two big questions. Did they improve the offense? Did they solve the QB? And this I've repeated three or four times with three or four teams in a row here, except for Philly, obviously. But I think both the Giants and the Jets, I had this exact two questions because that's really what it boils down to. With Pittsburgh, they are in that in-between mode, and they really need to blank or get off the pot, to say it succinctly. They need to win or blow this team up. And the moves they made in the offseason indicate that they are going for it by making big, bold moves, things that they've avoided in the past. Because they've been so good, right? Obviously. And 24 was no different. They were 10-7, second in the AFC North, made the playoffs, lost bad to the Ravens in the wild card round, and really ended their season on a bad note. But it was a tremendous start to the season. I mean, 8-2, they were riding high. They made the switch to Russ Wilson after it was clear to them, at least, that Justin Fields did not seem to be the guy. Limped into the won enough games early to make a playoff berth inevitable, but limped into the playoffs, losing five of their last seven and four in a row. But they had some good stuff last year. They were 4-3 against playoff teams. They were 6-4 in one score games. But they 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 had it was a 10-win season with a not brutal schedule, but not a cupcake schedule. That's a tough division. Um, yeah, to sum this up, efficient but disappointing season. Unfortunately for Pittsburgh, their standards are very high, and they just can't continue on. So that brings us to 2025, which definitely feels like an all-in season. The 2025 offense has a bunch of new names, including an almost entirely new running back room and an entirely new quarterback room. So let's dive in, and frankly, a new wide receiver room. So let's jump into everything that they've lost, everything that they've added, which is going to take a bit. George Pickens, they traded to Dallas. Justin Fields, they let walk to the Giants. Russ Wilson, they let walk to the, sorry, Fields, they let walk to the Jets. Wilson, they let walk to the Giants. Couple of guard, James Daniels, they lost to Miami. Guard, Dan Moore, they lost to Tennessee. Tackle, could be underrated losses there. Najee Harris went to the Chargers. Mike Williams went to the Chargers, but then retired. Van Jefferson went to Tennessee. Nate Herbig went to Washington. Lot of new faces in Pittsburgh. They added big time, big profile changes. Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, DK Metcalf at wide receiver. They drafted Caleb Johnson. They traded for Jonnu Smith at tight end. They added Kenneth Gainwell from Philly. They added Trey Sermon, running back from Indy. They drafted Will Howard. I mean, this is a entirely new offense. Blue chips, I mean, DK Metcalf, I think very highly of. Zach Fraser is one of the best centers in football. High potential. Isaac Siamalu, good guard. I put Caleb Johnson in here. I mean, that's arguable, but I liked him in college, and where they got him in the draft seems like a nice maybe addition. Jalen Warren is a talented but a little bit unproven running back that will be the starter. X factor, I mean, it all comes down to Aaron, doesn't it? If he can be Aaron Rodgers even a little bit, this could be the difference that Pittsburgh has so long been looking for. And in terms of make or break, I mean, it's not a hot take to say that if Pittsburgh doesn't really compete for a Super Bowl this year, that Mike Tomlin could be in a new situation next year. It's wild to think about as an outsider, but I think a lot of their fan base and maybe even their ownership would want Tomlin out if he cannot turn this team into a Super Bowl contender. Defense. It was one of the best defenses last year, and it looks like it's going to be another pretty good year for their defense. They traded Minka to Miami, lost to Landon Roberts to Vegas, a linebacker, lost Dante Jackson to the Chargers, a corner. Anjanobi went to Buffalo. Beyond that, none of those losses are huge, and or they got proper compensation back for them. The Fitzpatrick one, little baffling. Seems like they just wanted him out of the building. Now bringing in Jalen Ramsey for him is questionable, but I don't know. I don't know with their secondary. We'll get into that in a minute. Who else they've added? With their first pick in the draft, they took Derek Harmon to really maybe make this one of the better front sevens in football, and got Cameron Hayward, TJ Watt, who they re-signed. Maybe he's taken a little bit of a step back, but he's still an elite pass rusher. Patrick Queen is a top interior alignment. Alex Highsmith has got a good grade on the in the Sam linebacker spot. A couple of other guys that they added: Darius Slay coming over from Philly. Maybe he's done, but he's expected to be a contributor in Pittsburgh. They drafted an edge, Jack Sawyer, who could just maybe contribute to this pass rush. Yaya Black, they drafted nose tackle. So a good defense that they continue to invest in, which is usually what keeps these defenses great, especially when they're under good leadership, both on the field and off. Talked about TJ Watt, Cam Hayward. X factor, I guess Jalen Ramsey. I mean, if he can be Jalen Ramsey even a little bit with Slay Jr., with Juan Thornhill, who are some additions. Joey Porter Jr. is a talented cornerback, but probably can level up. If this secondary is a strength, you combine it with the already established front seven, you could be looking at another tremendous year for Pittsburgh, which that's what they're relying on. They're relying on this defense to be talented enough and keep them in all the games and have those ugly, 17 to 16, 21 to 18 type wins, along with a defense and offense that hopefully can have some firepower and score more, make them a competitive Super Bowl winning or at least competing team. All right, schedule, tough schedule. Can't get away from a tough schedule when you make the playoffs and you're in a good division. Usually, tougher at home than on the road. The road is sort of a middle of the pack schedule. They're fantastic at covering at home, at least historically. So they should be able to offset a tough home schedule by staying in games and covering the spread and winning a lot of these games. From the looks of things, looks like a very easy start to the season. You got the Rogers Bowl in New York to start the season, which I guess is the best time to have this game in Seattle, home versus Seattle, in New England, home Miami, home Minnesota, but that's a Ireland game, I believe. So neutral site against Minnesota, and then even coming out of the bye, a couple of division games, Cleveland and Cincinnati. Um, they're going to need to stack up wins early because starting week, I guess it's arguable, maybe starting week 12, but definitely week 13. I mean, Buffalo, Baltimore, Detroit with Miami thrown in there. I mean, these are, without saying, brutal matchups. Maybe week 18 against Baltimore doesn't matter for Baltimore. You could have caught a break there, but this looks really, really tough. And with that said, let's look into some of the more advanced stuff. From 24, I mean, they were exactly what their record said, 6-4 in close games. Fumble differential was +5 in favor of Pittsburgh. That will revert this year. They won exactly the same amount of games in 23 and 24, so nothing that jumps out there. They had a fairly lucky schedule, but nothing crazy. Good O-line. They did lose some guys in free agency that we talked about, so that's something to monitor. D-line seems to be one of the best in the league. I don't think that will change. They've added to that strength in the draft, which is always a good sign. Against the spread leans, I don't love any of their home games. And I talked about how good they are at home. I just don't love the lines right now. I am picking on the Browns. I'm sorry, but week 6 is the only one I found. They're coming off of a bye in week 5, coming back from Europe. That hot start could really give them momentum going into this game. And the Browns schedule is so brutal that they could be in absolute dire straits by the time this game is played. Right now, it's a 6-point spread, a little bit rich, but I think by the time they play this game, that could be north of a touchdown, which is a key number. So that's worth looking at right now. Beyond that, I didn't really have anything else. And if you were to, very similar to like Vegas, right? Do you like Rodgers, Metcalf, Caleb Johnson over Russ Wilson, George Pickens, Najee Harris? I think I do. Maybe not by a huge margin, but I think I do enough to recommend an over of 8.5 with this team. They'll compete for the division, they'll compete for the playoffs. I do think that they have addressed their offensive woes. And I think at least for one season or half a season, they've solved their quarterback woes. I do like the situation Rodgers enters much more than the Jets because of just the structure of it. Um, but no denying his age, no denying his performance the last couple of seasons. It's a tough schedule, it's a tough division. Will these home run swings pay off? I mean, I wouldn't recommend them in any sort of Super Bowl prop or even to win the division. If this was 9.5, I might go under. If this was 10.5, I would definitely go under. But 8.5 is like the perfect spot to gamble and take an over with this team. We looked at the schedule to start. I think they can be they could get to 6 wins pretty early on, and then you're in a spot where, okay, do I hedge? Do I think about cashing out? Things like that with which is where you're looking for value on a bet like this, which is a season-long bet. So yeah, I'll take the over on Pittsburgh. I'm not in love with this team, but I'm certainly not calling for an all-out disaster. So with that said, we'll conclude Pitt, and we're getting very close to the start of the season. So tomorrow is San Francisco, which is one of the most fun teams to talk about. So we'll talk San Francisco